Welcome back. In this session, we are going to look at joining more than one file. More often than not, we like to join datasets in order to be able to get the desired output we want and make sense from it. So let's assume that we want to get the number of trips made from each of the borough, and we know that our trip data has got the location ID, but it doesn't have the name of the borough. But our taxi zone file has got the location ID and the borough, so we can use the location ID to join the two tables, and we can get our borough combined with the number of trips. So let's start from a trip data, and let me show you the location ID first. I'm going to just copy this select statement and put it here. And let me run this through. And as you can see here, we got two locations here. The one at the first one is the pickup location ID, which is the PU location ID, and the DO is the drop-off location ID. So we want to find the trips made from each of the borough. So that would be the pickup location ID. So we want to use the pickup location ID. But before we do that, let's ensure that the location is always populated. As you found out in the last session, there could be data quality issues. So if the location ID is not populated, you won't be able to join to the taxi zone file to get the borough. So we need to identify that first. So the simple thing you can do is to say that PU location ID is not null. And that returns no records. So that means we got proper location aids here, and we know that our taxi zone file has got the location IDs, and we've done a count as well previously, which is great. So now we need to look at how to join the two datasets. It's quite simple. If you're familiar with joining two tables, you just have to assume that instead of the tables you're going to have the open row set functions. So if you're joining table A with table B, you will list the two tables and then list the join conditions. But here instead of the table A, you're going to have the open row set function for the file A, and then the table B will be replaced by open row set function for the file B. That's all it is. Let me show you how we do that. And let's talk with the select statement. I'm not going to worry about the column names for now. We'll come back and fill that later. But we're going to do from, and then we need the open row set function. So we're going to have the open row set for the trip data. So that goes there. I'm going to alias that into trip data, and now we want to join this to our taxi zone data. So let's put a join clause here, and then we need the open row set for the taxi zone data. So let me go and grab that. And we will grab the code from file1_explore taxi zone. And the code is fixed column code, which we have written earlier. So let me put that there. And we don't want the select statements. We just needed the open row set that I'm going to just push it out a little bit so that it's formatted. And again, I'm going to call this one as taxi zone. And just so we can fit the entire statement into one page, I'm going to remove these two default parameters for the open row set function, and they won't make any difference. And now we want to specify the join condition. So in this case, we are going to join on the location ID, which is on the trip data, and that's called PU location. And if you remember that, and that's joined to the taxi zone's location ID. And the joints. Nicely done. Before we do the aggregations to find out the number of trips, because that is a requirement, and let's just select all the columns from both of the tables. So I'm going to do a star on the taxi zone, as well as I'm going to do a star on the trip data that will show us everything, and then we'll do the aggregation, and then I'll show you how that's done. Let's run it. So as you can see here now, we got the columns from the taxi zone, and which is the location ID. So now what we want to do is based on the borough, we want to do a count, so let's do that. And then we can do a count, and I'm going to alias that as a number of trips. And as you know, if you are doing a count on a column, we need to group by as well. So I'm going to do a group by on the borough. And just to order the output, let's do an order by the borough as well. And let's now run this through. And the query is executed fine. And as you can see here, we got the number of trips made from each of the boroughs. So we got Brooklyn with 128,505. And Manhattan's got the most number of trips. So if you wanted to do an order by on the number of trips so that it's ordered on the number of trips instead of the borough, you would just use the number of trips and the order by. So let me change that, so it'll look a bit more nicer. Now let's run it again. So it'll look a bit more nicer. And there you go. So we got the Manhattan borough, the most number of trips. So that's how you join the data. But before we finish, let me quickly walk you through the scripts so that you understand it fully. So as I said before, when you join two files, you can join to open up on row set functions because that's a table valued function. It's going to return a list of rows and columns, and you can join the rows and columns with the same columns from another rows open row set. That's what we've done. So we got to open row sets. And the first one is the alias with trip data and the other one with the taxi zone. And you can do that on clause just to join the two. But if you wanted to do a left join or a full out to join or a right out to join, you can just change the join to reflect whatever you want. But in this case, actually, every pickup location ID has got an entry in the taxi zone. So I could just do a simple join here and we've got the results that we expected here. One thing I haven't shown you so far is to be able to chart this data. So we got some nice data here. If you wanted to put it into a chart, you can just click on the chart here and then chart it by default. You get a line chart. It doesn't make any sense. But what we can do is we can turn it into a bar chart and you can pick the category column, for example. In this case, it has to be the borough, right? And we've got the number of takes, a number of trips here. So we've got it nicely charted. And you can clearly see actually Manhattan's got the most number of trips. So you can play with that. There are a few types of charts available. You've got the area chart, you've got the bar chart columns and pie charts and things like that. And that looks really nice as well actually. So that's quite nice. And also once you've created the charts, you can save these as JPEG or PNG or SVG and you can email around your organization as well as to your clients. So that's the end of this session. And I will see you in the next one.